So glad that you could join me for this wonderful Monday evening. So, as many of you may have noticed, last week we did not do a video. I was having some audio difficulties, literally did my snippet without any audio. All you could see were my lips moving. So, I didn't post it. This week I have a new microphone and I'm trying that out, so hopefully you're all able to hear me just fine. Just advancing with technology, what can I say? With all that housekeeping out of the way, I wanted to share tonight about a walk through the tabernacle. I'm going to start just briefly with Moses's tabernacle. This was the tabernacle on earth set up as a picture, basically, or a shadow of those things that were in heaven, that God designed this with Moses. And so the great thing about it is it speaks so much about Jesus. So when you see the tabernacle laid out, it is laid out in three compartments, okay? And you go through to the outer court, is one compartment. It's the first thing that you do when you enter in the gate or the door. And then from there on the outer court, then you enter into the holy place, which is, sealed up with a veil. Then you go into the most holy place, which had the massive veil. And that was where only the high priest could come in once a year to atone for the sins of Israel. But the neat thing is when you come into the outer court, the first thing you see is the altar of sacrifice. And this is your coming to the cross. This is where it's the dying of self, the dying of the old man. Okay, and so that is like your evangelist bringing you to the cross. So that is the altar of sacrifice. Then beyond that is the bronzen laver, and that is where you're washed up. It's you do all the washing of the word. It's kind of your pastoral ministry. Louis de Siena does a great teaching on this, on the fivefold and the tabernacle. And I would really like to be able to share this diagram, but the altars where the burnt offerings are, it's a replication of the cross. The bronzen laver is where you're washed up. Then you enter into the holy place. Now the holy place was designed with also three areas. You had the candlestick, okay, on one side, and then on the other you had the table of showbread. Okay, the bread of life. He is the light of the world. He is the bread of life. And then you come before the veil, and there's the altar of incense, which is communication and communion with God. Okay, the prayers, etc. Then beyond that was the thick veil into the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies, and that is where the Ark of the Covenant resided, with the cherubim that covered over, and it had the little jar of manna, had the two tablets of the law, and it had the rod that was budding, of Aaron's rod. Okay, so that was Moses's tabernacle. And it was designed to have the high priest come in once a year to atone for the sins of Israel. Okay, but as we go on, that was the prototype. And as we go on in Scripture, we see another priest, king, prophet named David. And David had a tabernacle. He brought in the Ark of the Covenant. However, the prototype of his tabernacle was a three-sided tent and open on the front. Now, in Moses' tabernacle, only the high priest could come in to the Holy of Holies, right? Only because anyone else was not allowed, subject to death. And even then they had the high priest that would go on. They'd have these little pomegranates on the bottom that were like little tinkling pomegranates sewn on the bottom of their garment, all these wonderful details in the garments. So one day I'll just do this study and share it with you on just the garments and the veil and the layout of Moses' tabernacle. So beautifully put together. But then we have this shepherd, king, prophet, priest who now is set up this tabernacle for the Ark of the Covenant, and it is open. And unlike the tabernacle of Moses, where they made burnt offerings with a blood and and the burnt offering, okay, that they had to kill certain animals for certain things and offer that. His offering was praise and worship 24/7 before an open-sided Ark of the Covenant. This was the same Ark of the Covenant that was in Moses' tabernacle. There's only one. And so while he's doing this type of sacrifice of praise, and you know that David talks about praise, he talks about all these songs that were being sung were unto the Lord before the tabernacle. It was day and night, night and day. Where else do we hear this day and night, night and day? What's happening in heaven? Day and night, night and day, let incense rise. That's in heaven. So it's a prototype of something David saw as the prophet. He was able to come before this tabernacle as a priest, and others with him, they did not die, and offered up the sacrifice of praise and ministered to the Lord 24/7. And he was the prototype in the order of Melchizedek. Whole other teaching. There's only 3 places that Melchizedek is really mentioned in Scripture. One is with Abraham, one is with David, and one is in Hebrews, okay, in the New Testament. So I'm segueing. So here we have a whole new tabernacle understanding and revelation, and it is David's tabernacle that God says he's going to restore. He talks about it in the Old Testament, and then he also reestablishes it in the New Testament, that he will reestablish and will rebuild the tabernacle of David. So that is the whole idea of David's tabernacle, was to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice, okay? Offering and ministering as a priest to God, because we were a holy nation, a royal priesthood, okay, king priest, offering sacrifices of praise and ourselves as a living sacrifice. So isn't that cool? And then he calls us in, let me grab the scripture here. In 1 Corinthians, I wasn't sure if it was first or second, 1 Corinthians 3:16, he calls us the temple of God. It says, now know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. Well, back in the Old Testament, the Spirit of God did not dwell in us. The Spirit of God was with man, and usually on the prophets. And only the prophets heard from God and gave the prophetic words. Okay, but now we have the Spirit of God dwelling in us. We are prophets. We are kings and priests in the order of Melchizedek through the lineage of David. And so now we're seeing this other prototype of God in us, and the temple being in us. Isn't that cool? Of course, in the Revelation, it talks about the temple of God that's established there, and it all intermingles, okay? But it is the tabernacle of David that God specifically says he is going to rebuild the tabernacle of David. The whole idea was worship and praise and prayer and communion and having that ministry before the Lord. So that is our quick walk, snippet walk through the tabernacle. So very much more to share I am going to be releasing the mysteries of the kingdom here shortly, and in that series is also a portion that I do on the kings and priests section, and I will cover some of the tabernacle of Moses and of David and this new royal priesthood tabernacle. So anyway, with all that being said, I certainly hope you enjoyed this week's Snippets micro message. I'm going to get back down to where I was at here. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and share if you like it and want to share it. I appreciate it. And until next Monday, bye for now, and God bless.